Hey everybody, Hobo4Craft, aka Mr. Hobo here, and I'm going to be switching it up a little bit today. I'm going to actually be doing something I haven't done since, I think, beta, and I'm actually going to be doing more of an analysis today. It's going to be more of a commentary, and this is going to be for Zerg players, as Zerg is my main race, and depending on how this goes and how you guys react and how the feedback is, I might spread this out to all other races as well. But basically it's kind of just, you know, going over some general ideas for Zerg, and it will get a little bit more specific. We're going to be going over things such as unit timing, build placement, really things that are just key, and especially so in Zerg versus Terran, as we're going to look for today. We're going to have Softball, aka Fnatic Sen, versus 6jax DDE. Both very good players. No bad things to be said about either player. And really this is just to help the Zerg players, because most Zergs do struggle the most with Zerg versus Terran. So I thought this would be the most appropriate matchup to go ahead and do this with. Now, what we're going to see, Sen is actually taking 14 hatch, and this is pretty early, and the reason he's doing this is because you know, bunker rushes are getting very common. In fact, they're almost 90% of the games you will get bunker rushed, and especially on Xel'Naga Caverns, the map is so short, there's only one place your opponent can spawn, and so he's going to go for that 14 hatch. Now, a 15 hatch with a 15 pool would be doable, but he really is not feeling comfortable, so he's going to go for a 14 and then a 14 spawning pool. So that's okay. But notice he is going to drone back up to 16, and he did send out a drone scout at about the 12 supply mark. So he knows what his opponent is doing. Actually, no, he doesn't. He did not scout up the ramp, which I think is a critical error. Really, if you are going to send this drone out, you have to send it up the ramp at least, so you can know what's going on. And if you can get it into the base, what you want to see, if you see that your opponent has a gas, automatically you do not have to worry about him coming at you with a bunker rush. If he does, it's a joke, and he definitely will get stomped easily, because if you're going for a gas and you only have one barracks, you're not going to have the correct timing, you're not going to have enough marines, and you certainly won't be able to do a lot of damage. But what we are going to see actually is we're going to see this factory, and we could either see a 1-1-1 or we could see a reactor put down on this barracks and then a swap of the two. Now meanwhile, we saw that Sen has thrown down his gas, and notice this is at about the 19 supply mark that he did this, so he's not really rushing to get this, but as soon as both hatcheries are up, he's going for a queen on each, and we can see he is going for those 4 Zerglings now. And now he is scouting a little bit delayed, and he is going to see that reactor, so he knows everything that is going on as of right now. And these 4 Zerglings right here are going to be critical in scouting up the ramp and around the ramp throughout the game, so it's very important that we keep these alive and make them useful. Now notice Softball's reaction. Sen's reaction is purely just throw down 2 spine crawlers, and these can reach completely across this hatcheries area. So he doesn't have to worry about Hellions simply just going around. He has complete perfect building placement here, and he has 2 queens and 4 Zerglings, and that is it. And other than that, he is not reacting at all to these Hellions. So he is reacting nicely in that he is saving a lot of his energy for just making drones, and Zerg is just always looking for excuses to make drones. Now this is a very nice scout. He was able to time this just right where he could get in with these Zerglings, where 6jax DDE was lifting off his buildings, and he saw the command center. And when he sees the command center, his reaction should be to just drone hard, as we're going to see him do that. He's a little bit supply blocked right now, but we can see he's just going for purely drones. All he has on the field right now is just these queens, and now with this overlord placement, we see that he can defend. Now he's bringing 2 queens right here. This is really unnecessary, as with a ramp this width, you actually only need 1 queen to be able to defend from Hellions. Hellions actually cannot get up the sides here, but notice, still only drones. And actually is getting an extra queen, which is something I really like. It allows you to have 2 free queens to defend, and also 1 extra queen to spread creep tumors. And it's just very convenient, especially when you can't spend all of your larvae and can't reduce your minerals like this. And so this is a very appropriate reaction, but notice, still only drones, because he scouted, he saw his opponent was going for a fast command center, and notice back at DDE's base, besides these 4 Hellions, he has nothing. He has just been focusing on this expand, really. He has nothing to defend, nothing to be aggressive with either. So he's just relying on these 4 Hellions. Sen knows this and is going to take advantage of it. Going to use this as an excuse to drone up. Very smart idea. And notice it's only while he's teching that he's actually starting to take his gases, because in this game he actually will be going 4 mutas. And you want your 4 gases at nice timings when you are teching, or a little bit before, depending on how many mutas you want right when that spire finishes. But another thing to note is it's at about this time when you're teching, when you're pretty saturated that you want to start making Zerglings again. You want to try to break this little contain that he has here, because you haven't scouted his base in a while and you really can't be in the dark for this long. Notice this is when he does have metabolic boost, so he can be able to scout pretty easily here. And one thing I just want to stop and note real quick is one of the things that really kind of irked me the most about Sen's play is that he actually didn't have a sacrificial overlord that he could have sent from either here or from over here. Really, if he had just waited with an overlord until about now, when a Terran really is going to be teching pretty hard, that would just be a perfect time to just send it in and sacrifice it and be able to get a lot of good information. Now, other players like to go for that overlord speed or just go for an overseer, but really that's the easiest way, and that way he doesn't really have to sacrifice any units except for that overlord. Now it looks like he is going to be moving out, but notice he's going to be throwing down the Baneling Nest and Spire at the same time. Now normally you would want to get the Baneling Nest earlier, because a timing push is always imminent when a Terran is just going to be going on 1 base for most of the game. If he's not going to be going for that fast expand, you want that Baneling Nest early so that you can get rid of that tank marine push with ease. Clean up those marines and then just surround everything with those remaining Zerglings. And we can see that we have Sen just using that transfuse, so a nice use of defense. And I just want to point out this macro hatchery that he did throw down. He realized he was a little bit contained and he was running a little high on resources, so he just went ahead and threw down a macro hatchery. Now there's no shame in this. This is actually very smart by Sen. Not only is it very well placed, nice defense, it makes Hellions have to run all the way around this, so nice little wall going there, but it also allows him to spend his money very quickly, and that's exactly what Zerg wants to do. Zerg never wants to stay on a lot of resources. That means you're macroing poorly and you're not going to have a lot of units, and when Zerg doesn't have a lot of units, especially against Terran who pushes often and very hard, that is going to be a very bad situation. So it looks like DDE is just going to be pushing in, and notice it's not only until now that he's morphing his Banelings. Now this is partly because he's caught a tiny bit off guard, but also because it's not really necessary until you know for a fact that the Terran is going to commit to a push. Now if he had these Banelings 10 seconds ago, it's not going to make a difference. He's not going to lose the game because he waited these precious moments to morph these banelings. So the point I'm trying to make here is that once you know the Terran is committed, you can go ahead and invest in these. However, Terrans sometimes just like to push out and then move back just to make the Zerg try to divert their attention from drones. So just be aware of that and try to make sure that the opponent is actually committing. Now this goes for just about every matchup. And notice what he's doing here. He's actually moving the spine crawlers forward to tank a little bit. And it's just going to go ahead and move in. Now the ideal situation is that you have your Zerglings swoop around and kind of trap this part of the pathway for the Marines so that the banelings can come in and sweep everything up. And he wasn't really able to do that, so he just got what he could, cleaned up what he could, and if anything is vulnerable, you want to go for the tanks first. Definitely the big hitter, and it is what conceals and really locks in the positioning and the containment from the Terran. Now there are two things that Sen could do from here. He could either A, drone up and take an expansion, or he could commit himself to aggressive units that would allow him to stall or be aggressive and allow him to later go for an expansion. If we see, we actually see the centrifugal hooks, and he's actually going for Mutalisk, so we know that he's going to be aggressive. And since he is committing to this, he actually has to make these worthwhile. Otherwise, if he doesn't do anything with these Mutalisks here, then he might as well have just droned, because if they're just going to be dead weight, if they're just going to be sitting back, there's no reason he should have gotten them. So he's going to just be waiting for this last 3 to pop, and he's going to be moving out. And in my opinion, you should just go right for it right away. Don't wait for any special number, except for 4. I think would be appropriate. I wouldn't go and be aggressive with 1 or 2 Mutalisks. I don't think he'd pick off much. Sorry about that, guys. I don't think you'd pick off much, and you really need to have at least 4 to be able to pick off SCVs rapidly. Now, notice he is pushed back. He loses a Mutalisk. Not a big deal, but what he did get from that was vision, and that is key, because Zerg is always wanting constant intel from their opponent, and they can't do it as easily as Protoss or Terran does it, because Terran just throw down a comsat, you're fine, you can see everything, scanner sweep, awesome. Protoss, you have an observer, or you warp in a unit, you waste a probe, any of those things, you're fine. But Zerg has to use their actual units or sacrifice an Overlord. But when you can just go ahead and run in with Mutalisk and run back out, that's great. So Mutalisk not only great for harassing, but also great for intel. And I actually would have liked to see him not back up this much. But notice what he did. He just let his presence be known with these Mutalisks. He wanted to kind of flex his guns, and then bam, he throws down 2 expansions. Now, Mutalisks, if they don't do anything else, they really do play a huge part in the psychological factor of this game. Now, DDE knows that with every move he makes out of his base, there is ramifications of the Zerg possibly coming in and wrecking his mineral line and possibly doing a lot of damage. So that's really something that DDE is going to have in the back of his head for the rest of this game, for as long as Softball can keep these alive. Now in the meantime, just macroing up, trying to keep things going. If there's one thing I'd like to see better, it would be spreading creep. But let us just note the situation that Sen is in right now. He had this Zalnaga tower, and as soon as he saw the units, he is morphing Banelings. No sooner, he's not just waiting with Banelings just ready, you know, opening a bank account of Banelings. That's not what he's doing. He is I think he's trolling me. he is actually just making them on the spot, because all those resources that would have been in banelings if he had made them early could have been in drones, which is actually what he did spend them on. And as we can see, as soon as he saw this push come, he is mass pumping out these Zerglings. So everything is on the spot. Zerg really, to be honest, they want to be as last second as possible, where Terran and Protoss have to build up their army over a long period of time, or maybe in the later stages of the game they can really start getting their production really high with a lot of reactors, things like that. What Zerg has to do is try to delay making units as long as possible to a certain degree. It's easier with Terran, and by doing that they can get their economy going as best as possible. Now, seeing that this is really being attacked heavily, I don't think there's any way that he could save it at this point. I would actually wait to the last second and then cancel it. I don't think I would let this finish. And it actually looks like he got that destroyed. And let us just see. What DDE is going to do after this. Okay, so he's actually going to go down to the third. Okay, so what we want to do as Zerg is always anticipate the next move. Well, we always know what is going to be vulnerable for us. Well, the Terran definitely doesn't want to come to our main base. This is always where units are going to be chilling. Did I really just say chilling? That was kind of silly. This is where units. I'm kind of tired. This is where units are always just going to be hanging out, being stockpiled. I guess that's a more appropriate phase. That doesn't make me sound like a douche. This is where most units are going to be. This is where most of our hatcheries are going to be, so the immediate flow of units are going to come from here. Terran's not going to want to come here. They're going to want to go to our most far out limbs, if you will, because this is where we're most vulnerable. This is where it would be easiest to pick us apart. And so really, Sen should be gearing up to rush in with banelings here before DDE is ready and siege. Now, he has lost that timing. We saw DDE kind of waiting to see if he was going to be here with that sweep, but he's just going to go ahead and rush in. And notice, Sen's not really microing this the best he could. You don't want to waste banelings on Thors, that is for sure. You want a magic box with your Mutalisks, and you want to save all of your banelings for your Marines. Now, getting the tanks is key. We see he did that, and if anything, the banelings make the Marines kind of useless as they're just running away while the Thors and tanks try to pick off the banelings. Now, with this huge production, he has just been pumping out lings, and with this matchup, I would take it any day. Go ahead and sack the lings, but we see more reinforcements come, and he's going to back off. Now, the main reason that Sen does not lose right here is because of injections, and if we can just look at his hotkeys, we can see that each main hatchery, okay, they all have a hotkey. So all he has to do is double click this and then click his queens, and he's ready to go. So he's always right on the verge of spreading larvae or injecting larvae. It's very easy for him to do, and if Zerg falls behind in this, they are going to stockpile in minerals, and they won't be able to have enough units. And this is just key. Very basic tip, very basic rule is just always keep your injections going. But Sen now going to actually lose this just because he was not being able to react in time from that initial push. It eventually carried over. Sorry about that. So, because of that, DDE is able to have a nice victory, but right away you have to throw down your hatcheries again. And I actually would have much preferred to see another hatchery up top here, because most Terrans don't actually look for it. They're looking for over here, And believe it or not, it's a little bit more easy to defend over here, because Terran, well, first of all, you have this nice Xel'Naga, and you do have it over here as well, but most drops are going to come this way rather than this way. So it's nicer to have it right here, and when you do sweep through here, a Terran has to worry about a counterattack as you're already in the vicinity of his bases. So if he comes over here, he's kind of engaging himself, or kind of luring you to his base. But notice what we have been doing. He's completely saturated at both bases, even a little oversaturated, so he's been committing himself to upgrades and units. And he is not getting drones just yet. He will mass produce drones once one of these hatcheries is finished. In the meantime, he's actually been going for Mutalisk. Now, something very important to note about Mutalisk play is that either you're going to go for a medium amount and you're going to harass with that. You're not going to commit to a high Mutalisk count, which is something you would do if your opponent is going to be going for a lot of tanks and possibly Marauders and low Marine play, which isn't very often. Or you're just going to be going for, in the medium amount is also to harass, or you're going for a high amount, which is where your opponent possibly gets more. Okay, let me rephrase this actually. I think I messed myself up. I got a little distracted. Okay, low amount, no upgrades, you're just wanting to harass and kind of get a little bit of map control. High amount to medium amount, you want to get map control and you want to be able to get rid of unit compositions like I mentioned before. You would be committing more to this amount when you do see upgrades. We see he has gone for this +1 attack, so he absolutely has to make these cost effective. And you might hear me say cost effective a lot, but it's so important with Zerg as we have so many units and we can't just throw them away. What we have to do is do small stuff like this, like take out reactors, take out a whole barracks. A whole factory is huge, and you know, especially go for the SCVs. Now 3 missile turrets and this amount of munos, you should not be afraid of whatsoever. We can see he's magic boxing this, microing this nicely. He's going to take out 2, and we see he actually lost a good amount of munos, but completely worth it. Even if he lost 3 more munos than that, what he's done, he's set up more of that psychological game where DDE is always going to have to be looking behind his shoulder. He won't be comfortable to move out, and we can see he's just been getting more and more compact and tight into his base. Softball just doing a great job of staying around and doing more harassment, actually getting a lot of SCVs this time. And actually, if he could stay around, there's only 3 Marines heading for him. If we could pick stuff off like this, great, even up to amounts of 5 Marines with this amount of munos. Very doable. Taking out missile turrets, very good idea. Taking out SCVs while they're building barracks like this, just very good. And when bases are first going up and missile turrets are first being made, this is prime territory. Except if Thors are very close by, you'll have to magic box and be careful. Looks like he didn't micro that very well. But yeah, and DDE just before, when he was very aggressive, now he's just staying back a little bit more. He's being a little more hesitant. Notice we've kept Xel'Naga towers this whole time. We've been spreading our creep. We've saturated our bases. And in the meantime, after we've saturated our bases, we've just been injecting larvae. Massing that V button. We've been torturing that V button. And we have just been going all out on holding down that Z button and going for all of those Zerglings. Now, what's very, very key is, as a Zerg, you have to know, you have to be so right on with transitioning your units. We can see he has been just keeping this amount of mutas alive. We noticed when he was over here, he had the most amount of mutas that he had the whole game. And from there, he has not been producing. I'm actually going to pause to kind of go in a little bit more depth because this is very important. He has not made any more mutas since he has hit that prime number. And the reason is he has seen his opponent and what he is producing. He has seen all of these barracks. Just look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. 9 to 10 barracks and 2 factories pumping just Thors at this point. No more tanks. He's set on tanks. And he has seen the upgrades. So why would he keep going for these Mutalisks stubbornly against 2/2 Thors and 2/1 Marines when he can transition into something much more cost effective, such as Infestors, 2 Fungals, and a whole bundle of Marines are dead, or even Neural Parasite where Thors, turn against the opponent, or just masses of Zerglings where with these key amount of Banelings you can take out all these Marines and then just clean up these Thors with surrounds of Zerglings. And notice how he just goes into this. And this time he's actually going to do a great job with his Banelings, using them only on the Marines, and this is just perfect play of the Banelings. I'm just going to let you guys enjoy this last little cleanup. Very gratifying as a Zerg player. Now here is this is where I think Sen probably makes the most ginormous mistake of the game. So he just cleans up that whole Terran army, right? And what does he do? Nothing. He actually backs away. And when I was first watching this replay, I was like, wow, that was really great. But then I looked more into it, and I really thought about it, and I just looked at what DDE had, and he has nothing. There is no excuse for... He has 14 Marines and 3 medevacs that are basically all out of mana. There's no excuse for him to just continue on his path, go into the main of DDE, and rain chaos. I think he actually could probably win the game, if not shorten it by at least 3 minutes just by running into the base with all of these Zerglings, which is something really key that Zerg really needs to know how to do. And I think Losira is just really great at this, knowing his limits and knowing when to be aggressive at great times. Losira is very good at doing that, which is why he has pretty good success against Terran. Very good success, actually. And so now DDE, when he's running around with this few units, we know that he's in bad shape. And very key, Sen, knowing he's on a very huge advantage, just taking expansions that he can. He knows that he has the advantage. He has map control completely. And notice he still only has 4 Mutalisks. They're dwindling down, but he's not replenishing them. Mutalisks is not what he wants at this point. And this is where, oh my gosh, I definitely have to rewind that. This is where Infestor, late game macro really comes into play. And keeping Xel'Naga towers is just huge. Like I said earlier, just 2 Fungals and you will take out a whole bundle of Marines. How beautiful is that? Just energy. You're spending energy, and in return, this happens. It's truly beautiful. But once again, knowing your transitions, okay, you don't, at this point, you're going to have a lot of money, okay? You have a lot of bases, and you want to be a little bit more, as Day9 would say, larva efficient. And how would you do that besides going for, where's the sucker? There we go. Going for Ultralisks, which are just basically the most larva efficient unit, as they cost the most, but also give you the most, and also will do the best in this situation. So as Zerg, we're constantly trying to adapt to what the Terran throws at us, and we want to know exactly what we're going to need in the next situation. And just notice the upgrades all throughout the game. The upgrades, very important. Even going for adrenal glands, brilliant. I love it. I don't think I've seen adrenal glands in a replay in so long. So it's kind of refreshing to see that. And notice this key baneling play. A lot of people, especially in lower league play, will want to make just about all of these banelings. But that's not what you want, because the Zerglings are going to be rushing and surrounding and taking the damage, and then the banelings will get in there scratch free, and then we'll do all the work that 200 banelings would have done just as easily. And play like this is a hatchery that's expendable. We don't really need to worry about this. We don't have to commit a lot to it at this point in the game. So notice we're just saturating, spreading ourselves out. And we're just going to be waiting for this key timing of Ultralisks. Very heavy unit. Getting these upgrades is so key as Zerg. If we're going to fall behind on upgrades, and especially when we have so many units, when we upgrade them, it just benefits our whole army tenfold. But more brilliant late game play, just 2 fungals takes out all those SCVs, and that's really huge. Something that you could really incorporate it into your play easily and really mess up a Terran, especially when they're on one remaining base like this. So he's just going to go back and do it again. Loses another base. Once again, it's expendable. We do not want to rush into anything when we know we're in the lead and we know that we can eventually clean this up as long as we get the right positioning. We don't want to throw away a game just because we A-clicked into a bunch of tanks, right? So we want to get our hotkey set, and we want to get our positioning correct. And it looks like, see, we send our overlords in first. Banelings will go to only Marines, and we will be fungling Marines to keep them in place for our Banelings. Ease of destruction, and from there we can just clean it up. So in this first game, we really have covered a lot, kind of all over the place. But in the second game, I'm going to be trying to go over these ideas again, kind of refine them. Hopefully it wasn't too all over the place. Hopefully you guys got a good sense of key timings, key buildings, key concepts for the most part, especially unit transitioning. And I will be doing the second game between these two